What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are here at Lake Julian and we're talking about straight fairway drivers, because today we have a Crave. Now granted, this is in the Eclipse plastic, their glow plastic, which tends to be a touch more stable than a lot of their more stock run discs. However, the Crave is widely regarded as one of the straightest fairway drivers you can buy. So I'm going to test it against my straight fairway, a Vela. I'm also going to be testing it against my new Vela, which this will be the first time I've thrown it, because it came out in, because Quantum is basically Champion from Innova, but Innova is doing this new, like, slightly gummier, much clearer, but still overstable Champion plastic. And so I have a Vela in the older Champion, Vela in the newer Champion. And then since the Crave is 6.5, 5, -1.1, I have a Hex, which is 5.5, -1.1, and a Trail, which is 10.5, -1.1, versus the Vela, which is 7.4, -1.52. And depending on how you throw it, it could be more flippy or less flippy. But we're going to toss them today, and we are going to see how straight the Crave can actually be. We're going to start off with the discs that I know better. So we're going to start with the orange Vela and then go through, and then, so we're going to start with the two Velas, and then we're going to go through the -1.1 and see if -1.1 kind of varies throughout Axiom or MVP's lineup. But first, these Velas, look how clear and clean. That's so cool, and it has a good bit of gumminess and grip to it. And the orange is great, but I think this one might show up better on camera. So I'm looking for one that shows up a little bit better than the orange, and I think this one might just do the trick. We'll have to see how it flies, starting with the kind of older version Quantum or Champion Calvinheimer Vela. Okay, that didn't flip up at all. Interesting. Now let's go from slow to fast. We're gonna go Hex first. Little flip up, little fade. And now Crave. This one is 172 Eclipse Crave. Got a little flip up versus the Trail. The Trail is actually the flippiest out of all of those, which doesn't make sense because they all say -1.1, but the Trail is a 10-speed. So you think that the 10-speed -1.1 would be more stable than the 5 and the 6.5 speed. But for some reason it's not, and I still haven't figured out the Trail. That Crave was actually pretty nice. The only reason I'm doing this is right at the beginning of my next vacation. I'm doing one of the Space Race MVP discs, or technically I guess Axiom and Streamline, and it's a total Eclipse Crave and an Eclipse, I can't remember what they have a new putter that they're bringing out. So it's a Crave and then that new putter. So I wanted to see kind of what I'm going to be getting myself into. You know, this isn't necessarily the type of stability that most people would forehand, but I'm starting to learn to love it a little bit more because it's very controllable. We're going to do the same order. So the 2 Velas first, and then slow to fast for the -1s. With the new forehand grip that I'm using and with the new forehand power and stuff I'm able to impart, I'm not rolling over the slightly flippy discs anymore. I'm getting a much smoother release, a lot less torque, and so I think the Crave might actually work out well, and maybe even the Hex as well. Okay, I'm loving that Vela. Let's go Hex. Okay, it did have a little bit of a flip up, the Hex did. Let's see what the Crave does. Okay, so the Crave is flying very similar to a Vela, maybe a touch slower, so just a touch shorter. It does have a little bit more glide, but the Eclipse is almost always really flat, so it's not necessarily going to be domier. It just, the gyro might give it more glide, but that's all science talk, and I don't really 100% know if that's true or not. Now let's try the trail. A little shortish. It's okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look at the footage, but that bright yellow one seems to stand out against the contrast of the darker woods a lot better than the orange one does. But like I said, I'll have to look at the video and see. But don't be surprised if you see a lot more of the yellow Vela and a lot less of the orange Vela after this video. So off of the steep pad, we're going gyro rooms first. We're going fastest to slowest. So trail first all the way down to the Hex. And as I go down in disc speed, I'm gonna go up in arm speed. And hopefully, I'm gonna show you why these 3 are great. But if you throw them, well, I'll just throw them and we'll see if I can make the comparison I'm trying to make here. Yeah, that's a pretty good flight, right? What happens if you take a Crave and just throw it a little bit harder? That's a pretty good flight, right? Very, very similar to the trail. Now what happens if you throw a Hex as hard as you possibly can? Practically the same thing, practically the same distance. The aim point was a little off on all of them, but if you are throwing slower and you want a disc to do that shot shape or that flight, go get a trail. If you're throwing a little bit faster and maybe the trail is just a little flippier, or you want something that's a step down from the trail, go get a Crave. If you're looking for something that you can really mash into and throw as hard as you want to, and you're still gonna get that flight, go throw a Hex, which is why those 3 discs are great in comparison with each other, but also they are great stepping stones for the rest of the MVP lineup. So it's like, hey, I'm throwing a little bit harder now. Take a number or 2 off the speed and you might get the same flight. Now let's throw the 2 Velas. I'm gonna throw the newer Quantum before the older Quantum, just to kind of switch it up just a little bit. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna beat in that yellow Quantum Vela just a little bit more. Still needs a little bit of seasoning. That orange one I did get out of a used bin and I've used it a little bit, so it is a little bit flippier. I got both the same weights though. They're both 171s. So all that yellow one needs is some time. And I mean, I'll probably still stick it in the bag instead of the orange one when I go play New London. Just because of all the shots there that you want to push the back wall and still fade off the back wall so you don't go OB. I think I might stick the yellow one in just for New London. And we'll see how beat in it is, or if it starts to change any by the time I go up north. But one more tee pad. I'm going to go throw them all on 18, and we're going to see max distance. What can we get? Every single one of these throws should be a throw to get it on anhyzer and pan and drift before fading. So hopefully we get max distance out of these throws. We have a touch of headwind, so for discs like the trail, they're going to use throw it on hyzer. Whereas I kind of want to throw these two flat to see how far we can get them. But we're going to go with the hex first. Give us a nice little wind test. And also, how far am I really throwing today? .90. That's a smash for me. So I guess I'm throwing really far right now. Let's go with the orange Vela. That's up over 400. Let's go with the trail. .420. Wow. All right. Let's test out this Crave. Let's make sure that it gets onto an anhyzer angle at some point in its flight. Let's see how far an Eclipse Crave can grow. Okay, that's probably about 380. Let's go with this Vela. Actually, you know what I might do? Because that kind of flies like a new eagle. Let me take the eagle out of the bag until this Vela beats in a little bit more. Because if I need more stability, I have more stability. So, yes, believe it or not, I'm going to be going in 2 rounds without an eagle. But I have a Vela, which is basically the same thing. I'm really liking that bright yellow one though. So, here's what we're going to do. Crave, great disc. Still haven't figured out the exact hit point on it yet, but it seems to be, at least in the Eclipse, at least in the Eclipse plastic, the Crave seems to be a little more overstable than a hex, but not too much more overstable than a hex. The hex is pretty straight, has a little bit of flip, more than most traditional straight neutral mid-ranges. It has a little bit more play both right and left, but it's pretty neutral, pretty straight. The trail, like I said, it's more like a -2-1 in previous videos. It flies amazingly far, it's just not a -1-1. The Vela, great disc, great mold. I'm gonna keep loving to throw the orange one, and we're gonna stick the yellow one in the bag for when I go play. We're going to be playing New London, Brewster's Ridge, Fox Run, Maple Hill. We're going to be playing all the big ones, all the fun ones when I go up north. So I'm going to have 2 Velas and a millet instead of my traditional lineup of 3 eagles. And we'll just see how that fares. And yeah, I think I'm really going to love it. If you enjoy content like this, where I go out and test discs against each other, or just test discs that I didn't really understand before and now I've started to have a better understanding of, make sure to like the video. If you want to see new stuff, make sure to comment that down below. Please make sure to subscribe. It helps you guys out with these subscriber only giveaways, and it definitely helps me out as well. And until next time, see you out on the course.